Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into the new season of Talk with an Angel. As you can see, I am not Angel McGinnis. My name is Chandler Davis, and I am the new host of the show. Angel has moved on to pursue other endeavors, and we wish her much success and God's blessings. And we thank her for her dedication and commitment to establishing the show's foundation. So now, it's a new season with a new host. And our goal with this and future shows are to be informative and engaging on subjects and issues that are important to modern-day teenagers and their parents. Today's show, we will discuss one of the highest grossing holidays, Halloween. My in-studio guest today is Reverend Jerry Craig, pastor of New Vision Community Church. Let's give Pastor Jerry a hand as we welcome him to the show. Welcome to Talk with the Angel, Pastor Jerry.
Thank you.
You have been a guest on the show a few times, but for those who don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how New Vision Community Church got started?
I'm a native Pittsburgher. I was born and raised here and been in the ministry for over 30 years. We started New Vision Community Church in a one-room 16 by 32 in 2006. And now we've moved to a bigger place, and we're in our new home where it's over 12,000 square feet. So, and we believe we're doing God's work.
Amen. What is Halloween and why is it celebrated?
Halloween, the origins of Halloween are really different. Halloween is celebrated in different ways all over the world. It was traditionally called, it was Halloween Eve, All Hallows Day Eve. And this is where the Celtics and some of the other pagan-type religions celebrated the day where they believed that the dead could walk the earth. And they believed that this was all on All Hallows Eve. And this is, All Hallows Eve was actually the 31st of October. Keep in mind that back then, that was New Year's Eve, because the first day of the year was November 1st. So they believed that just before the new year, dead people could get up and walk around. So some of them date back as far as 5,000-6,000 years. But Suan, the Celts, started about 2,000 years ago. We're in the United Kingdom and northern France and Ireland, where they started celebrating Halloween in pretty much the same way. It was the time where it was the end of summer, and it was a celebration, and they made sacrifices to their gods so that they would have a good harvest for the following year.
Mm-hmm. So what is the origin of the word witch?
Witch comes from the word Wicca, which is an Old English word which means wise woman. So at one time, a witch was someone who was really a high stature in the community, because everyone would go to the witch for treatment for ailments and everything. So whatever was wrong with them, the witch would come up with some witch's brew, mm-hmm. And that's so they were very sought out and thought of as being very high in the community. But as time progressed, where medical science started to take shape around the world, they started saying that the witches and what they were doing was not in keeping with modern science. So they said then it would be that's where the term witchcraft came from, where the wise women were putting spells on people, and that's where the term came from.
And why are owls associated with Halloween?
Well, owls are associated with Halloween from medieval Europe. Owls were thought to be witches or tools of the witches. To hear the call of a witch, if you heard an owl in the middle of the night, they used to think somebody had died. So as soon as they would hear that, they would think somebody had died. They say at Halloween, the witch's companion is the owl and the black cat. And they say the cackle of an howl of a witch sounds like that of an owl. So they now associate that for pretty much for that reason, thinking that the owl has some mystical power of the night. Another problem it has is the owl is actually one of the only animals that can actually turn their head backwards. And they think that's kind of a freaky thing to happen. So they think that's, well, that can't be normal since no other animal can do it. So they think that is something special, and they use that in that particular way for witchcraft.
And it also seems like black cats are always associated and attached to this holiday. Why do you think that is?
Well, black cats, they came to represent bad luck, particularly in a lot of parts of the world. And it was so bad at a point that, I don't know, you may not remember or know, that there was a time where if a cat crossed in front of you from left to right, that means that something very, very bad was going to happen to you. So for that reason, black cats became associated with Halloween. Cats are sort of like independent creatures anyway. And so because of that, they took to the witches took to the black cats. Again, because culturally, cats back in Celtic time, nobody liked cats. You know? So that was part of the reason they became a symbol of both Halloween and of witchcraft.
Okay. And where did jack-o'-lanterns come from?
Jack-o'-lanterns, I thought that was pretty interesting to myself. The Irish believe that they came up with this. About 2,000 years ago, they say that there was a man named Jack, and Jack fooled the devil about 6 or 7 times because the devil was trying to get him to do different things and was actually trying to take his life. But Jack tricked the devil into leaving him alone. Well, because he tricked the devil, and so he wasn't allowed in hell because he tricked the devil. He wasn't allowed in heaven because he tricked the devil.
Right.
So so it's said that he walks the earth, especially on Halloween night, carrying a pumpkin lighted with a candle inside. And actually he walks the earth now to frighten away all other evil spirits, to keep himself safe, so that the more grotesque looking the face is carved on it, the more able it is to ward off any evil spirits. So that's how that came about.
And how did bonfires get linked with Halloween?
Well, the Druids built huge bonfires at that time, and during the time as part of the sacrifice. When they did the time of sacrifice, they would sacrifice animals, and during this period of time, this was all done on New Year's Eve, which was All Hallows Eve, and they would build these big fires, and they would throw, especially cats. If you threw a black cat in there, you were really good. But then they would also throw skins of animals in there. I don't know, some say that they even did human sacrifice. I can't find anywhere to substantiate the fact that they actually used human sacrifices, but they did do animals, and by doing this, sacrificing this, was in the harvest time, and they felt that giving these things back to their god, little g, that they would be rewarded in the new year with favorable crops.
And what is the history of trick-or-treating?
Trick-or-treating came, back about that time also. The Celts, even in Europe and in France, what they would do in celebration of Halloween, they would go out dressed up as animals, and they would go knocking on doors and asking people if they would want to be prayed for. And if they didn't want prayer, then they would do something to their property. That's where the idea of trick or treat. And so what started, then it got into a point where children and the poor in the communities would dress up in costumes and go out and start begging for food. And if they didn't get food, then they would perform a trick or say that they put a curse on the homeowner. And then in this country, it became, I guess, now more commercialized in a sense, where now children dress up in costumes and go out door to door for candy. And if they don't get candy, then I haven't seen anyone toilet paper a house there lately.
Yeah.
But they used to do that stuff. I don't know if they do it anymore. But that's what that was all about.
So there are different types of candies given out, and one of the more popular ones being candy corn. How did candy corn get associated with Halloween?
Actually,
go ahead. Sorry, no. And I also heard you have a special nickname for candy corn. Can you?
Oh, yes. This was my question. I wanted to know this myself because our special word for candy corn, we eat so much of it before Halloween that we called it candy crack. So it's candy crack corn.
Right.
The other day I came home with some candy crack, and I was singing the song, "Give me crack corn and I don't care." As soon as I got home, my wife got up and opened up a bag of candy crack. But actually, it was invented by this guy named George Rittner, and he was a candy maker in this candy company in Philadelphia. The candy was actually made normally, at the first one it was made, it was seasonal. They made it between March and November. But over time, well, when they first made it, it was still made out of candy and it had the fall colors. And they even would have a rooster colored with the same yellow and orange and black. And later on, it became more commercialized and became candy for Halloween. And so it became Halloween candy as part of commercialization because of its fall colors. And that's how candy corn. It has nothing to do with Halloween.
Okay.
There's nothing evil in it,
right,
other than the fact that if you eat too much of it, you might gain a couple pounds.
Right.
But that might be evil in itself. I don't know.
You're right. You're right. Are there any popular or famous Halloween superstitions?
Yes, there are some. Some of them are pretty strange, you know. I picked up a few that I can't say. Some of them I couldn't use, but these I thought were okay. Scottish girls believe they would see images of their future husband if they hung wood sheets in front of their fire on Halloween. I thought that was good, yeah.
Yeah, that is
wood
a good one.
sheets, yes. And some girls believe that they would see their boyfriends' faces if they looked into the mirror while walking downstairs at midnight on Halloween. Yeah, isn't that something? Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, that's what I said. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like this one too. And if a person wears their clothes inside out, then walks backwards on Halloween, they will see a witch at midnight. Now, isn't that something?
Yeah,
now, who's going to put their pants on backwards and walk?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But then I thought I thought that was strange. And then another one is that girls who would place the apple they bobbed for under their pillows were said to dream about their future husband. They would see their future husband in the dream if they put that apple underneath their pillow. I don't know if any of these things worked or
Yeah.
not.
Those are pretty good ones, though.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Those are just a few. They're like, when I was looking at them, I found this one where there was like 580 superstitions, and I said some of them were kind of strange. You
Yeah.
know. But those were just a few that I picked up.
The good ones. So when we come back, we will have you talk about if Christians and churches should participate in Halloween and its activities. We will be right back after these important messages. Hey everyone, this is Chandler Davis, your host of the Talk with an Angel show. I need everyone who is listening to join my team by becoming a partner. When you partner with me, you'll be among a special group of people who will help me make an impact on the lives of young people through my informative shows. Your faithful monthly support will enable me to extend my reach to you all around the world. Become my Angel partner today by making a monthly pledge of $25 or more, and you will receive my Angel pack that includes a backpack, mug, and t-shirt. Just go to New Vision Community Church's website and become a partner today. And thank you in advance for being on Team Chandler by becoming an Angel partner. Were you waiting for a sign? Here it is. Okay, so it's not handwriting in the sky, but it is a message of love. God is always ready to meet you, right where you are, and so are we. Join us this Sunday at New Vision Community Church for a time your whole family will enjoy. Great music, casual atmosphere, and a message that's sure to encourage your faith, especially in the fast lane. Join us at 11 a.m. We're just down the road.
Celebrate, worship, fellowship. Please join the members of New Vision Community Church as we celebrate 12 years of God's wonderful blessings. There will be great music, an inspiring word of God, and a delicious dinner that will be served immediately after service. Hope to see you on Sunday, October 28th at 4 p.m.
Welcome back to Talk with an Angel. I'm your new host, Chandler Davis, and our special guest is Reverend Jerry Craig, pastor of New Vision Community Church, and we've been discussing all things Halloween. So back to everything. What is All Saints Day?
Well, All Saints Day is observed November 1st. Again, remember that November 1st was at one time the first day of the year. One of the things that happened with making that is that at the end of the harvest season, they called the end of the year because that was the end of the growing season, the harvest, and then so that ended that year. So November 1st actually became the first day of the new year. And this was celebrated from Roman Catholic Church as All Saints Day. And one of the things that they did on All Saints Day, its purpose was primarily to pray for all of the people, all the dead souls. And it was originally called All Hallows Day. And that's what happens, that because they would uplift saints during this particular time. And there's a lot of people who celebrated it different ways. But it teaches that when dead people in Catholicism, if you remember, they would go, when they died, they would all go to purgatory instead of going to immediately going to heaven or hell. And so it was thought that on this day, your prayers that you would pray on All Saints Day or the first day of the year would have more power because it's the beginning of a new, and they believed that because it was new, God would give them more favor because starting of a new year. Right. So they would celebrate it there. Then in Eastern Europe, tradition says that one of the things that they did was that they dedicated all souls to that day, that all souls that died, no matter how they died, would now have an opportunity because of that. If you said a certain number of prayers, which were designated by the local priest, then no matter what they did or how terrible the person was, they would have on that day the opportunity to go into, move up into purgatory and enable them to have an opportunity to go to heaven, which is, it's really strange. Yeah. Protestants observed, they didn't have really an observance of All Saints Day, but they would join in parts of the celebration, even with Catholicism, because Protestant was an offshoot of it anyway. And so there were still some sects of Protestant faith that still would celebrate some of the things that they celebrated back then. And they would still have the festivals and all of those things the same way.
Tell us a little bit about what All Souls Day is.
All Souls Day was actually a continuation in a way of, I guess, of All Saints Day. It was the second day of November. Okay. And All Souls, then, that day was the day that not only did they pray for those who were dead, but they prayed for those who were alive. So it was all souls, whether dead or alive, that the souls were prayed for. And in Catholicism, the one issue that we find is that all through November was actually the day the month that they pray for all of the souls, especially those who have died and who are in purgatory, because the goal is in Catholicism is that they believe that they can pray somebody into heaven, light candles, and, or do certain things that the priest tells them that they have to do as penance for the person that's already died. But in Christianity, we know that Christ had already did all of this. Christ had paid the price. So since Christ had already paid the price, there's nothing that we need to do. We can't say enough prayers or light enough candles to overcome what Christ has already done, or do something in place of what Christ has done. All we have to do as Christians is to repent and believe that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior, and that's pretty much all we have to do. But keep in mind, the Catholics, they bought in a lot of these different cultish type beliefs into the church in order to get increase the memberships at that time. Okay. So they brought in a lot of different types of beliefs, and one of the things that they did was a lot of these saints that were pagan gods, they became saints in the Catholic Church, so that the people who they were bringing in could continually pray to their gods, but they was condoned by the Catholic Church by calling them saints. So, but that was all to get more people in the church. I don't think that's changed a lot now. People still do, pastors and preachers still do all kinds of things that to get people to come in the church. They jump up and down, throw a handkerchief up in the air, turn around 3 times and catch it before it hits the ground. Stand on the back of pews, all kinds of stuff. And that's all as part of to get people to come to church. We've laxed all the rules in churches today, where you can do whatever you want to do, and instead of preaching true gospel, we're pretty much preaching that God is love and He accepts you just the way you are. Well, that wouldn't make sense, because why did Christ die if nothing has to change for you?
Right.
But we're taking on the mantle of Catholicism, of wanting to appease people to get the numbers.
So should Christians celebrate Halloween, yes or no? And what about the kids? Will it really hurt them if parents allow them to participate in Halloween activities?
I think, in my opinion, no, it's my opinion. I think my opinion is no in a sense, but I do believe that it's up to the parent. And one of the things I think parents need to let their children know what that day is, and that day and why the day was to celebrate the dead and all the things that are associated with it. And if I would celebrate it or have my children celebrate it, I most certainly would not allow my children to dress up in witches and goblins and things like that, because then all you're doing is continuing the pagan religion by supporting what they were doing.
Right.
If you dress them up like maybe with an angel, I wouldn't have my little boy running around as a devil with a pitchfork and a tail.
Right.
I don't think I'd have my kid dressed like that anyway. But anyway, but we get. I think we need to pay close attention to that, but I think it's important that we understand what Halloween was originally for, and then make a decision as to whether or not this is what we're going to do. There are a lot of churches and a lot of nonprofit organizations that now have what they call harvest parties, where they celebrate the end of the harvest season and then the children are allowed to dress up if they desire, or if the parent desires to be dressed up, and they can and they give them a bag of candy and they go home.
Right.
There are some malls now that you can go to the mall dressed up and they give them candy. But I think in this country, I think it just became commercialized, and I'm not sure if anyone really even knows what Halloween was originally all about.
A lot of churches offer Halloween alternatives like trunk or treat or harvest party for children who wear non-scary costumes. Is this something churches should do?
I don't think, my personal opinion is no. I think it's like anything, when we start doing things, again, like the world, and that's a worldly thing, and once we start this, where does it end?
Right.
I think this is the problem with churches today, is that you let one thing go, and then it adds to it. It's just like anything that we do. That's okay. And then where does it end? And I think, where will it end? It's okay now. The churches believe all kinds of things are okay. And some of it even just started with little things that we would think, oh, that's harmless. What's wrong with children going trick-or-treating? Well, it's all based on what was the original intent. And the intent was witchcraft, witchcraft is most certainly contrary to the teachings of the Bible. So since it's contrary to the teachings of the Bible, why are we participating or telling our children to participate in things that's contrary to the Bible? It gets just like Christmas. We celebrate Christmas and Easter especially. And Easter now, that was a day that was entirely, had absolutely nothing, by definition, with the resurrection of Christ, with the bunnies and all of that. And we have the Easter bunny, Santa Claus, and we tell our children there's a Santa Claus, and then what happens, they get a certain age and we say, oh, there's no Santa Claus. Yeah. Then you told them about God. Oh, wait a minute, you told me that Santa Claus was real, and you lied to me about Santa Claus, or you lied to me about God. So now your parents, they're liars.
Yeah.
And we're telling our kids not to lie. But we teach them to do these things by accepting things like Halloween, Easter, and not explaining to them what this is all about. And I think that's where the problem comes in.
Interesting. And with all this talk about witches, owls, and black cats, what should be the Christian's view of Harry Potter?
Harry Potter, that was an interesting, it still is an interesting phenomenon. I think parents, I noticed and I found that 95% of all the schools in this country has the whole series of Harry Potter in their libraries. And it has become the most read book in 80% of the libraries, which means that it's having or has a profound effect on our children. And in there, they're teaching about witchcraft, and I think they got the School of Hogwarts, and then they're teaching sorcery, and they're teaching how to put spells. And when you start teaching that in children, they get to a point where, is this real, or is what my parents telling me about Jesus Christ, is that real? Should I be praying to Jesus, or should I put a spell on somebody? You know,
Right.
get my cauldron and throw an eye of newt in there and start stirring it up. You know, giving you a potion.
Right.
Be afraid for anyone to take one of your hairs. You know, you know. So, but I think this is where it comes in, that you have to think about this, and it's up to the child. You know, there are some children who can understand that it isn't real, but there are some children that will believe that it's mystical and magical, and they begin to think this is all real. It's gotten to a point where, you know, they have Harry Potter conventions where they dress up like the different characters,
Right.
and they belong to a different of the houses, you know. They even got one, what was that game they Quibish or whatever that game
Quidditch, yep.
they have games where they get on a broomstick
I know.
and running around like,
Yeah.
this is a little bit crazy. But anyway, this becomes a reality. Oddly enough, most of these things take place on a Sunday, oddly. So what's up with that?
That's
you know?
true. That's true.
There are, in the movie, I did notice that, and in the book, it did show some good qualities of the people. The three main characters, they were very loyal to each other. They did talk about love and all of this. And one thing, they never did conjure up any truly evil spirits, but they did do all kinds of other mystical things. So I personally believe that it's up to the parent. And as for me, I would definitely let them know that this isn't something that you should become a part of, and into a sense where you're going away. They had a convention. They have conventions all over the country.
Yeah.
And people will pack up their kids and go and pretend like they're Harry Potter or Imani and all the other characters,
Yeah.
you know, and they dress up like that.
Right.
And there's something wrong that they start actually believing that these things can happen, and these things take away from the message of Jesus Christ. When you start having people believe in these mystical characters, dressing up like these characters, thinking about performing witchcraft and putting a spell on you, and I put a spell on you. I mean, that's terrible stuff. I mean, well, but you know, those are some of the things that come up. But I think we need to look at our children and do more conversations with them about these things. But the problem is parents don't know. And they put their kids in front of a television set, and the television set babysits them.
Yeah.
They teach them how to go and make their oodles and noodles at 3 years old, you know, and they don't care.
Yeah.
As long as the TV's on, they don't care what they're watching. They don't care what kind of games they're playing. Children at 5 years old are watching X-rated movies, and they can tell you things that I don't even know, you know,
Yeah.
that they saw in the movie at home. So parents need to become parents.
Right.
And monitor what their children are doing and recognize whether or not their kids are weak-minded. Now, if you got a weak-minded child, you shouldn't let them watch that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they might be doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
It's true. That's very true. So, Pastor Jerry, do you have any final remarks about Halloween and its celebration you would like to leave our viewers with?
I think I've done most of them. I told you how I feel, and
Yeah.
I don't believe there's any more to be said, other than it becomes a personal choice. But as for me, I don't believe that we should be truly celebrating it. I gave a short synopsis of Halloween. Every Tuesday at 7 o'clock, we have what's called Coffee, Tea, and He, where we go extensively on different subjects. Halloween was one we've done before, but we do different things on that day. I think coming up, this Wednesday, we're going to be talking about do Muslims and Christians actually worship the same God. So a lot of things we do on that day. So if you really want to know more about these issues and get an opportunity to learn about these things so that you can teach your children, Wednesday at 7 o'clock, come out to our Coffee, Tea, and Eat.
Okay, sounds good. Well, with Halloween fast approaching, we all have some food for thought. Let's thank Pastor Jerry for carving out some time out of his busy schedule to discuss this timely topic. If you want to see a replay of this show, go to New Visions Community Church's YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you would like to be a part of our live studio audience, join us next month on Saturday, November 3rd at 11 a.m. for our live broadcast. And don't forget to like and follow the Talk with an Angel show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm Chandler Davis, and until next time, be kind. You never know when you are entertaining an angel. Be blessed.